Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So this morning I was drinking my coffee and I was looking at my calendar and it dawned on me. I am 6.5 weeks away from my first frost. My first frost date is December 4th and I'm about 6.5 weeks today. It's midweek, mid-October, and you all know, all of us gardeners know that 6 weeks before our first frost is a big deal in the gardening world. It is the date that you want to get all your plants in the ground, all your plants that you want to move or transplanted, so that those plants have enough time to establish before the first frost. So it is go time for me. Today is transplanting day. I have quite a long list of plants that I am planning to transplant today. I think I have about 6 of them, 6 varieties, but multiples of each variety. And most of them are annuals, right? My proven winners annuals that I have in pots all around here, that because I'm in zone 9B, they're actually gonna be perennials for me. So I want to save all these plants. I want to get them planted in my garden and I want to get them established so that hopefully I can enjoy them next year. So the best time to transplant is either in fall, like it is now, or spring. Times when the temperature is going to be mild and it's not gonna stress the plant out once you dig it up, mess with the roots, and put it in a new home. So fall and spring is the best, but there is actually a school of thought that I've been reading a lot about that I found really interesting, that fall is actually preferred over spring for one reason, and that is because of soil temperature. So in the spring, we're coming out of winter, the soil hasn't had much time to warm up yet, and the soil temperature is usually cooler than it is in fall when we're coming out of a hot summer and the soil has had all summer to warm up and heat up and retain all that heat. Root growth in plants tend to stop around 40 degrees Celsius, so you want the warmer soil so it can emphasize root growth before it hits really stressful times for the plant, like freezing temperatures, frost temperatures, or the hot summer when that plant is going to need a good developed root system to take up enough water. So I've actually taken out my soil thermometer and been checking different spots around my garden that I'm planning to transplant these plants into, and my soil temperature is hovering right around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think will be perfect. It will give the plants plenty of time for root development before I hit my first frost. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about and try today is a new to me gardening theory. I think it is just overall a relatively new gardening theory, and that is root washing when you're transplanting your plants, or bare rooting the plants. I first learned about it in this book. This book is called The Informed Gardener by Linda Chalker Scott. It was really interesting book. It was basically a myth busting book, busting gardening myths that we all have been taught, and we all just blindly follow. And I totally agree with myth busting gardening, because I really truly believe we all live in different environments, different humidity, different soils, different temperatures, and there's no way that we all can follow the same set of rules. I live in zone 9B. It's hot. It's on the high end of the zones. Someone like Maya from Simply Bloom, she lives in, I think, zone 3. So her rules are going to be very different than my rules. And so I don't think that we can all follow the same rules for gardening. So I really like this book because it just went through a bunch of rules that we all follow and, don't even think about it. And then it explained why that's not really valid anymore. And that's not what science is pointing towards anymore. And then another way to look at it. So one of the columns, it's kind of like a collection of her columns. One of the columns that she was talking about was the myth of fragile roots. And basically it was saying, a lot of us look at a root ball and we don't want to break the root ball. We don't want to, we don't want to break the fragile roots. We want to lightly tease it so that we don't break the roots. And actually, that's not how we need to think about it. What we need to do is we need to get all the soil out of that root ball, all that soil that's been sitting there that has, artificial nutrients and nutrients that aren't native to wherever you're planting that root. And we need to get that soil out of there for a couple reasons. One, so the plant establishes itself in the the native soil wherever you're planting that plant, and it doesn't just stay in its little happy environment and doesn't spread its roots out. 2, it allows you to see if your plant is root bound and the roots are starting to circle, because I think that they've shown again and again that once a plant starts, the roots start to circle, they will continue to grow in a circular pattern and never spread out and get all the nutrients that it needs. And then 3, you need to see if there's any dead or diseased or weak roots that you need to root prune. So root washing is just when you transplant a plant, you take it out of its pot, you dunk it in water, you loosen all the soil from the root ball, and then you put that bare root ball into the new planting hole. And it's supposed to, so I guess when you do it, the plant does suffer. It looks like it's suffering at first. It will kind of like, the leaves will turn brown and the leaves will start to fall, and it'll lose all its blooms, because all the energy is going towards the root system, which is what you want when you transplant a new plant. But then once it establishes and once the plant comes back, it's going to be more robust, stronger. It's going to be able to handle things better because the root system is going to be established in its hole, right? It's not going to be root bound. It's not going to be relying on the fake nutrients in whatever potting soil the plant was potted up in. So today I am planning to try this. Like I said, I've never purposely tried root washing. I have transplanted plants and the soil has all fallen off. So I bare rooted the plant, but I didn't do it on purpose. So today when I transplant all these plants, I am going to purposely bare root or root wash all these plants and then see how they do. So let me show you all the plants that I'm planning to transplant today. So the first plant I have today is this gorgeous yellow luscious citron lantana from Proven Winners. I have loved this pot so much. So I have the luscious citron lantana. I have the Super Tunia limoncello that has gotten totally decimated by budworms this past week. There you guys go. You see that? So I need to spray BT on that. I'll get to that. And then I do have Super Bell's yellow that is not doing very well. I can't really see the blooms or anything like that, but that's okay. The lantana is taking all the attention these days. So I definitely want to keep this plant. I love this. It's like a creamy pale yellow. It's not that bright goldenrod yellow color. It's really, really beautiful. So I definitely want to save this plant. Hardy zones 9A to 11B. Did I already say that? I don't remember. Full sun, and it'll get about 2 feet tall and wide. So it's a gorgeous plant. I want to save it. I'm going to put it in my front yard, kind of close to my bearded iris. Close to my rose arch, I think. So that's the first one I'm going to transplant. Okay. And then the next plant I have is the unplugged pink salvia from Proven Winners as well. I think all but one of these are from Proven Winners. So this one is kind of bloomed out. I mean, they're both kind of bloomed out. I have this one, and then I have this one over here in this mix of pots. And they have just been so wonderful all season because they have been pollinator attractors like crazy. I have my pollinator garden over here, and that did really well for pollinators. But oh my goodness, it was pretty much every day, multiple times a day, I would see hummingbirds and those big bumblebees on here. They absolutely loved it. They loved these flowers. I loved the flowers. I thought that they were absolutely gorgeous. So this unplugged pink salvia is hardy zones 9A through 11B. So again, my zone 9B is going to be perfect for it. They take part sun to full sun and get about 2 feet tall and wide. My plan is I have the rockin' fuchsia salvia from Proven Winners. I have that in my front yard that I actually got for $1 off the clearance rack at Lowe's. There's Dwight. I don't know what he's doing. He's being a little stinker today. There's a cat next door. George, the dog next door, they also have a cat, and Dwight and that cat, they don't like each other very much. So I feel like that's what Dwight's doing. I just have to keep an eye on him. So I'm planning to plant the unplugged pink right next to the rockin' fuchsia salvia. They look very similar, except for rockin' fuchsia salvia gets about 3 feet tall. This one gets about 2 feet tall. Where I have the rockin' fuchsia salvia in the front yard, I'll show you guys. I don't have to do anything to it. I literally don't even think about it. I feel like I've tried to kill that plant a couple times and it just keeps coming back, and I see hummingbirds on it all year long. So I've decided to finally leave it, and I'm gonna flank it with these 2 shorter ones, and I think it'll be really, really pretty. So this is a plant. Next plant I'm gonna transplant. All right, so I am over in my side yard with my new arch. It's absolutely gorgeous. I have been pruning back my honeysuckle over here. One, to get behind it so I can paint a little bit better, but two, I decided I wanted to prune off some of the old wood underneath the honeysuckle. Okay, for instance, this is new growth on the honeysuckle, and it's really, it's soft, it's flexible, but then if you look here, this is the old growth, and it's not soft and it's not flexible. So I decided to prune most of that old wood off, which is what happens with honeysuckle. It will grow old and then it'll just keep putting the new stuff on top over and over and over again. So it keeps like laying on each other. This is a good example. So you can see the old stuff still has new growth coming from it, right? But it just keeps bulking up and keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I felt like my espalier was getting too big. So I kind of just pruned it back. They're so established now that they grow so fast that I feel like I don't even have to worry about it. So I've been working on this area a lot. I do want to get these plants taken out. This window box was like a half win, half fail. I feel like the Helen von Stein right here was a total win. It was gorgeous. I loved the color looking out from my kitchen. This is my kitchen window. The unplugged So Blue, which is the sister plant of the unplugged pink that I just showed you guys, it did not do well. And I think it's because it got aphids, and I didn't notice it until it just kind of got out of control. Look at all that like honeydew on it. There's like black mold on it from the honeydew. These poor plants, and I cut them back and I treated them, and then the exact same thing happened. So I actually don't think this area gets enough sun for these plants to be nice and strong and be able to protect itself against the aphids. I think it has aphids and I think it has whiteflies. I think it has both actually. So I am planning to transplant this unplugged So Blue. It's hardy zones 8A through 10B, needs part to full sun, gets about 2 feet tall and 16 inches wide. I'm going to transplant them, but I do not have high hopes for them just because they're like inundated with bugs. So my thought is maybe we'll get some frost and it'll kill whatever's on there, and they'll be able to pull through. But if they don't pull through, I'm not going to be too upset this season. I also am going to transplant my Helen von Stein. You all know I absolutely love this plant. Hardy zones 4 through 9, full to part sun, 1 to 2 feet wide. I'm actually going to transplant it down like here, kind of in this area. I put my neighbor's gardenia, my neighbor who passed away, her family gave me that gardenia, so I planted it right there. I transplanted some bearded iris. It's not looking beautiful, but that's okay. Root growth, right? And I think I'm going to put it, I don't know, somewhere around here, somewhere on this area, because like you guys know that I'm kind of working on this area because this is like the entrance to my back garden. When I have my garden tour, this is going to be the entrance, and I really want to start filling it up with plants. So I think I'm going to put the Helen von Stein over there, and that is a super, super easy transplant. I could do that in my sleep. Very easy. Okay, then back over where I was before. You can't even see what I'm planning to transplant. I am planning to transplant my Blew My Mind Evolvulus. So I planted it out here earlier this season. I thought, it was going to be so happy here because this is a south-facing wall. It probably would be happy here if everything else didn't completely smother it. Absolutely smother this poor thing. It's not getting any sun. I have one on either side of these pots that you can't even see these pots. This whole it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous mess. I absolutely love looking at it. I think it is so beautiful, but it is a mess. It is an absolute mess. So I'm hoping to dig in around here and take these beautiful plants out. This is Blew My Mind Evolvulus XL. I have notes here if you guys were wondering. So this one is hardy zones 9A through 11B. It needs full sun. It spreads about 1 foot to 1.5 feet, and it likes the heat. So technically it should really like my environment. I think that it just didn't have a chance this year because of everything else all around it. Isn't this pretty though? So if I have time, I will try and transplant my Sun Credible Yellow. They are hardy in my zone as well. I'll put on the screen right here what their the range is, because I don't remember off the top of my mind, but I know that I can transplant those, and I think I probably will. I just don't think I'll have time for it today, but yeah, so it looks really good over here. It's just, you know, these poor things. You can't even see them. It's like spot the blue. I spy the blue. You can't even see it. All right, last one is back in this trio of pots, and it is Superbena Violet Ice. You can see a bloom right there. I loved this plant this year. It was so gorgeous. It's not blooming very much right now. You can see most things are pretty much done, but I just really loved this color. It was so vibrant. It was so beautiful. Hardy zones 8A through 11B. It needs full to part sun, and it'll get 1 to 2 feet wide. I'm planning to put it back over in my side yard, you know, kind of over by the gardenia, like, you know, where I was showing you guys before. So I think what I'm going to do, I have a bucket over in my side yard by my blue barrels that I think I'm going to fill with water, and that's what I'm going to use to wash all the roots of all these perennials for me. So what I'll do is I'll take them out, I'll dunk them in that bucket of water, rinse off as many roots as I possibly can, and then put them in their new home. And well, you know, we'll see. It's all a trial. It's fun to try new things and see if this works. I've read about it enough to feel confident that this would be, you know, it's a valid theory. It's not just, you know, someone crazy thinking things. But I want to try it, and I want to see how it does, and I wanted to bring you all along. So let's get transplanting. right, so I am about 3/4 of the way done of what I had planned to do today. I am totally out of time. Like I was telling you guys in the other video earlier this week, I am trying to limit my amount of time in the garden, not by project, but by time, because projects can take me anywhere from 1 hour to like 6 hours, and I have other things that I have to do as well. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to stop this. I got most of it done. I got everything done except for the evolvulus blew my mind. I didn't clean up. I was sitting here and I was debating whether I should clean up before filming this and showing you guys. And then I thought, you know what? It's more interesting to see the mess and to see what it actually looks like after I spend a whole couple hours. I think I've been out here for like 3 or 4 hours at this point. So I want to show you guys what an absolute mess this transplanting and root washing. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Okay, so starting over here on the side yard, what a mess. Now, after I film this, I'm going to go through and I'm of course going to clean all this up, but I just wanted to show you all what it really looks like. So I got everything out of the flower box, and these Helen von Stein lamb's ears were so rooted in. It was like all of the soil is basically gone because it was all roots, and it was just, they were pretty in there, but it was obviously too much for the flower box. And I have a feeling that's why the unplugged So Blue salvia was struggling, because they had no room. Their root systems were so incredibly tiny. Once I washed those roots, it was like, oh my goodness, these poor plants. No wonder they were struggling. So I took the Helen von Stein out of here. I put one here, and then I put the other 3 over here. And you guys saw me root wash this plant right here. That was the hardest thing I did. It was so heavy. The root system was so developed. It was like carrying a 20-pound bowling ball. It was absolutely crazy. So I did not, I keep forgetting the name of what I'm trying to say. I did not get all bare the roots or root wash these 2 plants right here, but I did this one. So it'll be really interesting to see the difference between this one and how this one does versus the other 2. I have a feeling with Helen von Stein, there's not going to be much difference, I think, but I have to show you guys. Okay, so I had the wheelbarrow. It was full of water and soil, and I tried to carefully pour it out. It made a complete mess, soil, dirt, everywhere. I have all this dirt in here and it started dripping down here onto my rug. It made an absolute mess. I just don't have areas that I can pour this out easily. I could take it to the front yard, but I couldn't get the wheelbarrow all the way to the front yard without it sloshing around everywhere. So absolute mess. I could see doing like one plant, like maybe one shrub or one tree, but I think I had like 15 to 20 plants to transplant today. Oh, it was intense. You can see I made a mess over here getting all these annuals out. I made an absolute mess over here. I did not get to the blew my mind evolvulus yet. I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow, or maybe later on this week. Like I said, I have a bunch of other stuff I have to do. Let me show you the front yard where I transplanted everything though. Okay, so over here, I decided to put the unplugged pink right here, and I used to have heliotrope, I think it's called heliotrope albo. Here's the tag right here. What is it called? Heliotrope arborescens. Okay, that's what it's called. Heliotrope arborescens. I got this from Annie's Annuals. It was fine. You should have seen the roots though. They were like that big around. It was crazy, but it just didn't flower very well. And I did find 2 budworms there, and I'm wondering if the budworms were affecting the flowering on the heliotrope. I don't know, but I just didn't really like the flowering, and it definitely doesn't smell as good as the common heliotrope. So I decided to take it out, put the unplugged pink right there. I think it'll be really pretty because it'll be pink, and then we have the plumbago blue right behind it. So I think that will be gorgeous there. Right across the way, I did my Luscious Citron Lantana. I think that that's going to be really pretty right there. This is obviously coming out, and this is where I'm going to plant my redbud tree. And I haven't decided if I am going to root wash or bare root my redbud tree or not. I haven't decided. I don't know. I have to do a little bit more research and see what it says. Let me know if you have an opinion about that. But over here is where I ended up putting that unplugged So Blue. And so it doesn't look like much right now, but that's expected, and it's not going to look like much over the winter until spring when it starts growing again. But I think it'll be really pretty. I have the Chinese fringe flower, which is dark foliage, and then hopefully the unplugged So Blue, which will be really pretty blue color, and then more Helen von Stein. And then my plan is right over here, I'm going to plant those homestead verbena, those purple homestead verbena. And I think that will be really pretty. And then of course the monster will be gone. He's kind of falling apart right now. He's pretty cute. The girls really like him, so he's pretty sweet. All right, so anyway, that was a lot of work today. I feel really accomplished, like I got a ton of stuff done. I'm gonna go start cleaning up. It's just the type of thing I always forget. I still have to clean up, so I have to stop myself before I really have to go. And I basically really have to go at this point. So hopefully I'll get some of it done. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope it was motivational for you. If you live in my zone, get out there and transplant your plants, because we're about 6 weeks away from our last frost. Our first frost. So check your first frost date, because they're all different. Even in the same zone, it can be different, but check it. And around 6 weeks before your first frost, you want to get all your plants transplanted. So anyways, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a chance to get into your garden today.